So the other day I was on Facebook and I saw my friend Chris make pizza on his barbecue, and my reaction was, what? That looks amazing. I'd like to try that myself. In today's video, we're gonna do the same thing. We are going to smoke a cheese pizza. First thing that we want to do for our pizza is get the yeast going. So I have that right here in a measuring cup. So I've put 1 cup of water in here and a teaspoon of yeast and a teaspoon of sugar and stir them all together, and they've been kind of sitting here for the past maybe 10-15 minutes or so, and it's all really nice and frothy. So it's time to put it in the bowl and then get some flour inside there as well too, and start making our ball of dough. Okay, we've got our water and yeast and sugar mixture added into the bowl. Now we're going to start adding some flour in here. I don't really like to make this part too complicated. I just kind of stir that up a bit, and I don't really bother measuring. I just kind of start adding some flour in, maybe like about a handful or so. Put about that much in. What we're looking for is to just turn this into kind of like a somewhat thick slurry, kind of almost like a consistency like oatmeal or something like that. So we'll just kind of, yeah, about that looks good. We'll kind of mix this up until the lumps are out of it. Still a little bit too runny right now. We want it to be a little bit thicker than that. This is what we're looking for. See how it becomes really sticky? You can see that it's all sticking to itself now. This is what we want. This is the consistency we're getting it to first. Then we're going to add a few more ingredients, and then we'll add some more flour. Now we're going to put some salt into this, and we're probably going to add about a teaspoon or so. Next we're going to add some olive oil in, and we're probably just going to give it maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons. We add the salt to the dough because it's going to make it much more flavorful, and we add the olive oil to make it a little bit softer. Okay, I'd say that's pretty good for now. We've got all of our ingredients in. Now all we need to do is bulk this up with more flour and turn this into a ball of dough, and then we'll start kneading it. Get this to the right consistency with just the right amount of flour in it. We're just going to add a little bit more at a time, maybe about a 1/4 cup or perhaps a handful or so. At this point we just want to add as much in as we need to get the ball to start to form inside the bowl. See how it's no longer sticking to the sides of the bowl, it's more or less just sticking to itself, and that's what we want. So this is ready to come out of the bowl now. So next we'll just sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter, and then we'll start kneading this. Get a bit of flour on our hands. That can come out of there. We don't want to leave all this stuff inside the bowl. All that's really, really good and tasty stuff right there. So we're just going to put a little bit of flour in here, and we're going to use this to scrape all of the good stuff off of the bowl. And we're going to save the bowl as well too. This is what we want our dough to rise in. And why dirty 2 bowls when we can dirty just 1, right? So it's going to be sticky, it's going to be messy. That's okay. That's because we're making pizza. It's part of the fun of it, right? I don't really believe that there's a right or a wrong way to knead dough. I think as long as you're getting the flour integrated into it and you're able to kind of stretch it out to build up the stretchy, nice, gooey gluten inside the dough, I think you're doing okay. We're starting to get closer to it right now. So what you definitely do not want to do is add too much flour to this dough. If you do, then the texture of the dough is just not going to be right. We want to make sure that we have just the right amount of moisture inside of it. So let's scrape off all that stuff on our fingers. Try and integrate that back into the dough. And we'll know that it's done whenever it kind of sticks to our hands a little bit, but not too much. If it's too dry, meaning like it'll be just too hard to knead it, and it doesn't stick to your hands at all, you can just add a little bit of water into it. The way you do that is you just wet your hands and then start kneading the dough. And that's an easy way to fix that. And if it's too sticky, well, you just keep adding a little bit of flour to it, just a little bit at a time. Like right now this is actually a little too sticky still, so I'll just put a little bit more flour on my hands. Maybe a little bit of flour on the outside of the dough. Even just a little extra like that might be all you need. Get it? Might be all you need. There we go. This is getting pretty good now. It should feel like silky smooth to the touch. Be a little bit sticky. And it should look silky smooth as well too. Yeah, this is looking great. It smells amazing. Okay, here we go. So this is done now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of fold it into itself like this. We're just gonna turn it into a nice little dough ball like that. You can see the underside of it looks like that. Next, we're gonna put some oil inside the bowl. We're gonna coat the ball of dough in the oil. Then we're gonna cover it up and let it sit there for about an hour so that it'll rise. I'm rising my dough inside the oven. The reason why is because I can turn the temperature up just a teensy bit at the start and then turn off the oven, and that way the temperature inside is a bit warmer than it is outside in the room, and it will rise a bit faster. While we're waiting for the dough to rise, we're gonna make some pizza sauce as well too, and this is gonna be a super simple, nice, summery pizza sauce. It's not gonna have a lot of ingredients. In fact, it's only going to have 2 ingredients. Gotta have it, San Marzano, DOP certified, amazing tomatoes. These are some of the best tomatoes you can possibly make sauce out of. They come from the foothills of Mount Vesuvius, and that is where you get the world's best tomatoes. They're thick, fleshy, and a really nice sweet taste to them. Gotta be DOP certified. And our other ingredient is gonna be salt. Now you could add a little bit of fresh basil to this as well too, but I think that that will be better if we put it on right at the end when we're about to cook the pizza instead of going right into the sauce. But we're not even going to do that today. We're just going to use a real nice simple sauce. So let's get started on that. One of the things that I've noticed about these tomatoes is when you open up a can, there's no water inside the can. Look at that. You can't really see the ingredients, but on the side of it, it says here that they're just tomatoes and a little bit of citric acid, and that's just to help preserve them. This is the fun part. You might want to get your kids to help you with this. We could put these in a blender or something, but hey, it'd be a lot more fun to just squish them up with their hands. I find that when you squish the tomatoes with your hands, it kind of gets them to the perfect consistency for a sauce. It just seems right. We're just going to cook this down a little bit and thicken it up, and then we're going to stick it inside the fridge or the freezer because we want the sauce to be really nice and cool whenever it's time to put it on the dough. I left a little gap along the side here so that the steam can escape, and that way the water will condense out of the sauce and it'll thicken up. But we want to definitely have a lid on it because that will stop the tomato sauce from splattering all over the place. And that way it'll be a lot easier to clean up, and that is okay in my books. Oh, and we're gonna wait to season this with salt until it's reached the consistency that we would like it to get to. Our tomato sauce is well on its way to becoming delicious, and the temperature is a bit high right now. Turn it down a little bit. Basically want the temperature to be as high as we can get it without burning the sauce. Don't want it to burn at all, not even a teensy little bit. The reason we want the temperature up high is so that it'll cook as fast as possible. You gotta be careful with that because we don't want to burn it. While we're waiting for the sauce to cook and the dough to have its first rise, we might as well shred the cheese. And for that, I'm using this Our Compliments pizza mozzarella. The difference between this and regular mozzarella is the moisture content in it. I like to use about half of one of these blocks for a 12-inch pizza, so that works out to be about 225 grams or so of cheese. You can never really have enough cheese, right? we'll just stick this in the fridge until we're ready to make the pizza. Now, something we want to be careful about while we're making our sauce is that we don't cook it too much, but we do cook it just the right amount. And how we know that is we are going to cook it as much as we possibly can until it starts to look like it might be too thick, and we could either add a little teensy bit of water at that point, or maybe we pull it off the heat right before it gets to that point where most of the moisture is cooked out. The reason why is because that's how we get the most tomato flavor possible out of the sauce, is we need to reduce the amount of water that is inside of it so that only the flavorful part of the tomato is left. You'll know your pizza sauce is done when it starts to look and sound like this. But you can see most of the moisture has been cooked out of this. So now all we need to do is just season it with a little bit of salt and then cool it down to the freezer, and it'll be ready to go. The dough's about doubled in size here now, so next we're gonna knock it down, push all the air out of it. We'll actually take it out of here, and we just knead it a little bit more as well too. You probably won't need any flour on the counter for this. Just gonna knead all of the air out of it and form it into a ball again. And then we're gonna put it back in the bowl, and we're gonna let it rise again for about another hour. We'll coat it in oil again. We coat it in oil so that it won't stick to the bowl. That's the only reason. Okay, so now this is ready for its second rise. And if you're curious, the reason why we do a second rise, it's because it makes the texture of the dough so much nicer. It makes it a lot more silky and smooth whenever you bite into it. And it's just a much better mouth experience while you're eating it. And that's why we do 2 rises. Next, we need to fire up our smoker while we're waiting for the dough to do its second rise. The smoker I'm using today is one made by Napoleon, and this is an Apollo model, and I think it's something like an Apollo 300, something like that. Anyways, it is very, very similar to a really popular one out there made by Weber called a Smoky Mountain, and it's actually a water smoker, although we're not using the water pan today because we want this to get to a really high temperature, and it just won't get there if we have the water pan inside of it. This one is super easy to use, it barbecues great, and it smokes great as well too. There's still a little bit of charcoal left in here from the last time that I cooked, so I'll just use that again. And this is the stuff I like to use here, this Royal Oak hardwood lump charcoal. This stuff's made out of real wood, and it's what's gonna give the pizza the best flavor possible. Okay, so we're just gonna let this go for a little bit until the coals start to get red. Then we're gonna put some more charcoal on top of it, and we're gonna add our pizza stone on at that time as well too. And the timing for this is really important because you wanna put your pizza stone on early enough that it's not too hot, because if you put your pizza stone in after it's already really hot in there, you'll very likely break your pizza stone because it'll be cold going into something that's very, very hot. You could preheat your pizza stone in the oven, but why bother doing that when you can just preheat it inside your smoker at the same time? So once again, we're just gonna let this go for a little while until we get some coals, then we'll add some more charcoal, and at that time we'll put the pizza stone on so it gets really hot, and then we're gonna wait for this to get ripping hot inside of it, hopefully at least 500 or 600 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's time to make our pizza and put it on. So this will probably take 20 or 30 minutes for it to get all nice and hot all together. So we'll just open up the vents here and let it do its thing. I changed my mind about when to put the pizza stone on. I decided to put it on right away because I was worried that it would crack. And I just thought I'd show you that and some of the things that are important about it. So this pizza stone is just a little bit smaller than the diameter of my smoker, and that's a good thing because we have this gap all the way around the edge of it. It's about 1 inch gap all the way around, and that's going to allow the heat and the smoke to get up to the top of the smoker. And that's important because there needs to be heat on top of the pizza that radiates down to the top of it, so that the top will cook and the cheese will brown. Let's have a look at those coals now. Starting to get a little bit warmer, but I think it's going to need a little bit more time yet. Got a bit of time now that we're waiting for the smoker to get hot. I'm waiting for the dough to do its second rise, so this is the perfect time to pour yourself a beer. The tomato sauce has been in the freezer now for about 20 minutes or so, and it is the perfect temperature. It's nice and cool. And if you're doing this at home, I recommend cooling it down in a pan like this because it spreads the surface area out and maximizes it so that it'll release heat as fast as possible. And if you're like me and you're super impatient and you're trying to cook as fast as you can, this is the way that you do it. We're almost at just the right temperature. It's sitting at about 525 at the moment, but I'm waiting for it to go off the scale. That's when I'm gonna put the pizza on, because as soon as I take the lid off, it is gonna lose some heat. So I want it to be quite a bit above where I would like it to actually cook at, which is somewhere around 500 or 550. So we'll probably wait another 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then we'll put the pizza on. The coals look amazing right now, look at that. Yeah. The smoker is almost at the right temperature and everything is all ready to go, so it's time to make our pizza. A few things that you want to make sure are just right before you build your pizza. You want to make sure that your dough has gotten to its second rise and that it is as risen as it's going to get. You don't want your dough to be too warm. You want it to be kind of at room temperature. If it's too warm, it'll stick to your pizza peel, and that is no fun, trust me. You want to make sure that your pizza sauce is also nice and cool, because if it's too warm, it'll warm up the dough as soon as you put it on there, and then the dough will stick to the pizza peel and it won't slide off onto the pizza stone. That is no fun, trust me. It also helps if your cheese is nice and cool as well, because I find that it just spreads a little bit nicer on the top of the pizza if it is. The first thing that we're gonna do is sprinkle a little bit of flour on top of the pizza peel. We don't need too much, but we want to definitely have some on here because it's going to stop the dough from sticking to the pizza peel. A lot of folks use something like cornmeal for this. I personally am not a big fan of it, and I would prefer to just use flour. And as long as you don't use too much, then you won't have a whole lot of flour sticking to the outside of the dough when it's cooked either. So we're gonna put some flour on our peel here. Just get a handful and spread it out, and then I just kind of push it on with my hand like this. So we'll just set that aside. Now we're gonna take another handful, and we're gonna put that all over our hands and just get a little pile here because we need to take our dough and put it on there. So we've got our dough here. We're just gonna punch it down. We're gonna pull it out with our hands and we're gonna put the sticky side on the flour. It's really important because you always gotta remember that this is gonna stick like crazy to that peel. We're just gonna take our knuckles and we're just gonna knock it down now. And the idea here is that you're pushing out any large bubbles. And when you're knocking it out like this, you're squishing it down, you want to concentrate towards the edges rather than the center, because you have to remember that typically when you cook pizza, it's always thick around the edges and thin around the middle, and we want to counterbalance that by pushing down around the edges a little bit more in the center. But we definitely want to push down on the center because we want to make sure that we've broken any air bubbles that are in there. That's about right there, I'd say. You can actually take this and kind of toss it on your hands a little bit as well too, like this. It also helps just to kind of balance things out a little bit too. So there we go. I'd say that's pretty good now. Looks pretty good. So we'll put that on the peel. Put that on down here, move that out of the way. And now we need to work fast, folks. Okay, so we got that on our peel, and it helps to just take it and slide it. So maybe every few seconds or so, we're gonna pick it up and slide it. So we gotta work fast here. So we're gonna take our sauce and we're gonna put that on here. Because the longer the dough is on this peel, the more of an opportunity it has to stick to it. And we're gonna just take this, we're just gonna use a spoon and spread it right to the edges. I like lots of sauce myself. If you don't, just put a little bit on. Put as much on as you like. But I just can't get enough of these San Marzano tomatoes. They're so good. So there we go. That looks pretty good. And take our cheese. And don't worry about putting this on there in just the perfect way, because it's kind of cool when there's more cheese in some spots than other spots. You just want it to be relatively evenly dispersed. So we'll use that, like that idea. And want to make sure that there's no cheese or anything sitting on the peel, because that's something that the pizza can get stuck to. Here we go. And we'll see if we can slide that. We're still good. Okay, so now we got to real quickly put this on the smoker. Let's go. We'll give this a little shake, take our lid, and then we're going to put it on the smoker. Oh, I pushed it a little bit too far over. That's okay. We're just gonna leave it. It's gonna cook real fast, probably in like 2 minutes. So we're just gonna take a moment now and knock all the extra flour off of our peel, because that's no fun to bite into. Now I know it's tempting to open up the lid, but we don't wanna do that, because if we do that, we're gonna let all the heat out. So we just have to trust. We can kind of look in the little vents at the top here to get an idea how cooked it is. So I'll look through there and I'll wait for the cheese to melt, and then we'll have a look at it. Oh, I probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna have a little peek. I'm gonna try and fix it up so it's on the peel a little bit more squarely. There we go. Like that. Oh. There we go. Just wanted to get it on there a little bit more square. Oh, I hope that wasn't a big mistake to do that. I would say that the pizza's just about finished now. So we're gonna take off the lid and we're gonna pick it up with the peel here now. There it is. Look at that. Looks amazing. Well, other than where it kind of slid off a little bit there, it does look pretty tasty. Let's bring this inside and have a closer look. Here it is, folks. Looks amazing. Let's have a look at the bottom of it. Looks great. I'd like the cheese to be a little bit more brown than that, so I'm just gonna stick it underneath the broiler for a minute here. Here we go, folks. This is all ready to eat now. All right, here is the final moment of truth. The pizza is all ready to go. It's piping hot. I'm very likely gonna burn the roof of my mouth, but it's totally worth it. I can't wait to eat it. It smells incredible. Let's go for it. Oh yeah. Oh, the texture and the flavor is so good. Oh, that tomato sauce is so simple, so nice and flavorful and fresh. Perfect sauce for a nice summer pizza like this. And that cheese. The cheese absorbs the smoke from the wood fire that we had out there on the grill. And it just adds so much more to this. Just a whole bunch of extra layers onto something already so perfect as pizza. This is pretty cool. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into this video where we made the smoked cheese pizza. If you'd like to see more, then please let me know in the comments, and I'd always appreciate a like as well too. Thank you very much. Have a great day.